There is a very specific, deeply unsettling kind of terror when you realize the thing you trust the most has suddenly turned against you.
Oh, absolutely. It's the worst feeling.
Right. It is entirely different from facing an obvious enemy. Like, if an invading army marches over the hill with banners flying or, a wolf howls in the dark, your adrenaline spikes.
Yeah, your defenses go up instantly.
Exactly. You know exactly what to do because the threat is external. It's clean, it's clear, it is identifiable. But what happens when the threat wears the face of the very thing that is supposed to protect you?
That is a terrifying question.
What happens when the sanctuary literally becomes the trap? Welcome to today's Deep Dive, everyone. I'm your host, and I'm here with our resident expert. And today, we are going to explore that exact kind of hidden danger.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you today for this one.
So, today's mission is a big one. We are diving into C.S. Lewis's 1956 masterpiece, The Last Battle. But I want to be super clear right up front for you, the listener. We are not just looking at this as some classic children's fantasy story.
No, not at all. That would be doing it a huge disservice.
Right. We are treating this text as what it actually is, a profound, practical roadmap for deepening your Christian faith. It's an eschatological survival guide. We want to show you how this final Narnian adventure equips us to discern truth from counterfeits, understand the Bible more profoundly, and live fully for Christ.
It really is a survival guide for your faith. And to understand why Lewis wrote it that way, you have to look closely at the soil it grew out of.
Yeah, the real-world context.
Exactly. Mid-20th century Britain was, well, it was a landscape defined by total exhaustion. You had a society that had just survived the existential trauma of the Second World War.
The Blitz, the bombings.
Yeah, the Blitz had leveled cities, millions of lives were shattered. And yet, the post-war victory didn't usher in this golden age of spiritual revival like some hoped it would.
And it went the opposite way, didn't it?
It did. Lewis was watching this rapid, creeping secularization. He saw a society losing its grip on absolute truth, slipping into a sort of comfortable bureaucratic materialism.
Which is terrifying when you think about it.
Oh, it is. He was deeply concerned about how easily a population, even a highly Christianized one, could be led astray by manipulative leadership, watered-down theology, and just the quiet erosion of objective morality.
Yeah, he had already written about the intellectual side of this in The Abolition of Man, warning about a society of men without chests. People with intellect, but no moral fortitude.
Precisely. And The Last Battle is the narrative culmination of that exact warning. He takes the theological concept of eschatology, the study of the last things, and he dramatizes it.
Using Matthew 24 in the book of Revelation, right?
Yes. He draws heavily on those apocalyptic frameworks to show us what happens when a culture entirely loses its theological immune system.
And the way he illustrates that immune system failure is just staggering. Okay, let's unpack this. The premise drops us into the final days of Narnia.
The very end of the world.
Yeah. It has been over 2.5 millennia since Aslan the Great Lion sang the world into existence.
Yeah.
Narnia has been at peace for a very long time, and with that peace has come, well, complacency.
A very dangerous complacency.
Right. Then, this shocking rumor sweeps across the land that Aslan has returned. But this is not a joyful, majestic return. This supposed Aslan is demanding that the holy talking trees be cut down and sold.
Which is just horrific for the Narnians.
It is. And worse, he is ordering the free Narnians to be sent into the salt mines as slaves. It's like, what?
It is the ultimate spiritual nightmare. The king they love, the god who is the source of all their joy, is suddenly acting like a petty, vicious tyrant.
King Tyrion and his unicorn friend Jewel are just paralyzed by this.
Because they know Aslan is not a tame lion. They know his ways are higher than their ways, but the idea of him murdering and enslaving completely shatters their understanding of his fundamental goodness.
And that paralysis is exactly what the architects of this deception are banking on, because we find out very quickly where this nightmare is originating.
Up by Cauldron Pool.
Right, up near a roaring waterfall called Cauldron Pool. We meet an ancient, incredibly manipulative ape named Shift, and this sweet, humble, but tragically gullible donkey named Puzzle.
Puzzle just breaks your heart, really.
He does. So a dead lion's skin washes over the waterfall. Shift fishes it out, sews it into a crude coat, and completely bullies Puzzle into wearing it.
Then from a distance, in the dark, with the firelight flickering, Puzzle looks just enough like a lion to fool people.
Which brings me to my favorite analogy for this. It's like a cheap knockoff designer bag. From a distance, the logo looks right, but when you actually examine the stitching, it completely falls apart.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
But wait, I have to push back here. Why are the Narnians so easily fooled by this knockoff? Shouldn't they know their own creator better than that?
What's fascinating here is that Lewis is capturing a devastating biblical reality. The greatest danger to a believer's faith is almost never blatant, open opposition.
Like an atheist just yelling at them.
Right. An outside enemy denying God's existence rarely shakes a mature Christian. The real danger, the one that actually destroys faith, is the counterfeit.
Because it looks so close to the real thing.
Exactly. Shift uses the familiar vocabulary of faith. He constantly invokes the name of Aslan, but he completely empties it of its true character.
He tells them Aslan wants them to be slaves.
Yes. And this connects directly to Jesus' warnings in Matthew 24. Christ explicitly tells his disciples to watch out for false prophets who will perform signs to deceive, if possible, even the elect.
So someone speaking the lying word but claiming divine authority.
Exactly. And if we look at how this applies to you, the listener, in modern times, it is so relevant. Spiritual abuse and idolatry often begin with these incredibly subtle distortions of God's character by self-interested leaders.
Turning the joyful liberty of serving Christ into arbitrary rules and fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
They hijack the authority of God to serve their own greed, just like Shift demanding all the winter food stores for Aslan. If you don't know the actual biblical character of God, you will fall for the counterfeit.
Because you'll accept a tyrant just because he wears God's name tag.
Exactly.
But Shift doesn't stop at a fake Aslan, which makes it even worse. He colludes with the Calermenes, the neighboring empire, who worship this terrifying, vulture-headed, multi-armed god named Tash.
A god who literally demands blood sacrifice.
Yeah, so dark. So Shift creates this new, blended god to appease both sides. He calls him Tashlan.
Tashlan, it just sounds completely wrong.
It does. And there's this heartbreaking scene where a young woolly lamb bravely questions this. He asks how Aslan and Tash could possibly be friends.
A baby lamb standing up to the ape.
Yeah, and Shift hisses at him. Tash is Aslan, Aslan is Tash. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Ginger the Cat and the Calamine captain secretly admit they believe in neither god.
They're completely secular materialists.
Right. They just use Tashland to control the masses. So how does this blending of religions work theologically?
Well, it is the biblical concept of syncretism. It's blending incompatible beliefs to make religion culturally or politically comfortable.
Which happens all the time throughout history.
Oh, constantly. You see it in 1 Kings 18, where Elijah challenges Israel for limping between two opinions. They were trying to worship both Yahweh and the local false god, Baal.
They wanted the benefits of both.
Exactly. And in the New Testament, Galatians 1 warns against accepting a different gospel. Why does this matter for your daily faith? Because compromising doctrine doesn't create unity.
It just creates a dangerous counterfeit.
Yes, it destroys the unique holiness of God. You don't get a more relevant God. You get a hollow idol that eventually demands your enslavement.
Wow. But that brings us to a huge transition. How do people react when they realize they've been fed a counterfeit?
That is where the psychological trauma really sets in.
Some, tragically, decide to never believe anything again. And that brings us to the tragedy of the hardened heart. Specifically, the dwarfs.
The dwarfs. It is one of the most sobering parts of the whole book.
So, King Tyrion and the children, Jill and Eustace, they rescue this group of Narnian dwarfs who are being marched to the salt mines. They free them, and Tyrion shows them Puzzle and the lion skin to prove they were tricked.
He expects them to be relieved and join his army.
Right. But the dwarves refuse to fight for Narnia. Their new motto becomes, "The dwarves are for the dwarfs." Now, let me play devil's advocate. Isn't their reaction somewhat justified?
How do you mean?
Well, they were manipulated, lied to, sold into slavery. It makes sense that they build a wall around their hearts to avoid being fooled again. It's a trauma response. But how does this self-protection become a prison?
It is completely understandable psychologically, but theologically it is deadly. This connects directly to Hebrews 3 and 4, the strict warning against a hardened heart and willful blindness.
They decide that because one thing was a lie, everything is a lie.
Exactly. And the ultimate tragedy happens later. They are sitting in the beautiful new Narnia, but because of their cynicism, they only perceive a dark, filthy stable.
Oh, this scene is so hard to read. Aslan literally provides them a glorious feast with rich pies and fine wine.
And what do they think they are eating?
They think they're eating old turnips and dirty water from a trough. They are fighting over garbage because their hearts are completely calcified.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a massive warning for us today. When you experience past church hurt, disappointment, or deception, the temptation is to let that pain harden into a cynical refusal of all grace.
You shut down completely.
Yes, cynicism, disguised as wisdom, locks your soul in a prison from the inside. The door isn't locked by God. It's locked by your own refusal to surrender the bitterness.
So we have to risk trusting God again, even when humans fail us.
Absolutely. We have to keep our hearts soft.
That is so powerful. Now, while the dwarfs knew the true name of Aslan but closed their hearts, there was another character who didn't know the true name, yet his heart was wide open.
Yes. Emeth's journey, the sincere seeker.
This is such a controversial part for some. Emeth is a young Kellermene warrior. He has served the false god Tash his whole life, but with genuine sincerity, honor, and a desire for truth.
He is a true believer in the light he has.
Right. When he finally steps into the stable expecting death, he meets Aslan instead. And I want to read what Aslan says to him, because it's breathtaking. Aslan says, "All the service thou hast done to Tash, I account as service done to me. Beloved, unless thy desire had been for me, thou wouldst not have sought so long and so truly."
It really is a stunning piece of dialogue.
It is. But I have to ask you to explain Lewis's careful theological framing here, because this sounds like universalism to a lot of people. Is Lewis saying all religions lead to heaven?
No, absolutely not. Remember, the idea that all religions are the same with Schiff's Tashlan lie, Lewis is explicitly not saying that.
Okay, then what is he illustrating?
He is illustrating the concepts found in Romans 2 and Acts 10. In Acts 10, Peter meets Cornelius, a Roman centurion who doesn't know the gospel yet but fears God and acts justly. God looks at the hidden orientation of the heart.
So God honors those who seek truth according to the light they have.
Yes. The crucial, deeply evangelical point here is that Emeth is saved by Aslan, not by his own works, and certainly not by Tash.
So it's about God's sovereign, boundless mercy.
Exactly. Emeth was given the wrong name for goodness by his dark culture. But when he meets the true source of all truth, he bows down instantly. It highlights Christ's just and merciful nature.
That brings such profound comfort to the listener regarding God's absolute fairness. God isn't looking to damn people on a technicality.
No, he judges the secret motives of the heart.
Now, Emeth's encounter happens in a very specific place, a place where every single creature in the story must eventually stand. And this brings us to the crisis of the stable door.
The climax of the entire book.
It is terrifying and magnificent. The stable door is on a hill. Aslan calls the stars home, and they fall from the sky like silver rain. Giant lizards destroy the old Narnia. A wall of water rises, and a giant squeezes the dying sun like an orange.
The complete apocalyptic unmaking of the world.
It's intense. And every creature must rush toward the stable door where Aslan stands. So what does this all mean? I like to think of this stable door as a spiritual prism.
A prism. I like that.
Yeah, like it doesn't change what a creature is. It reveals what they've always been inside. It brings their true nature to the light.
That aligns perfectly with the ultimate judgment in Matthew 25, the separation of the sheep and the goats. As the creatures look into Aslan's face, their reaction determines their eternity in a fraction of a second.
It's just instant recognition, isn't it?
Yes. Those who love him, who desire the light, pass through the door into Aslan's right side. Those who hate him, who are terrified by his holy presence, swerve into his shadow.
They choose their own darkness.
This raises an important question for you, the listener, about your own ultimate allegiance. This scene strips away all religious pretense. It asks, do you truly love the king?
Because heaven and hell are the ultimate confirmation of what the human soul has chosen all along. If you hate God's light, he gives you what you want, separation from him.
As Lewis wrote elsewhere, there are those who say to God, thy will be done, and those to whom God says, thy will be done.
That is chilling. But for those who do love the king, what they find on the other side of that door completely shatters all their previous categories of reality.
The transition from apocalypse to overwhelming hope.
Yes. Section 6. Further up and further in. The true Narnia. The children step through this tiny, dark stable door and find themselves in a vast, sunlit, beautiful country. And Lord Diggory realizes the inside is bigger than the outside.
It is a stunning paradox.
And Lucy realizes the old Narnia was just a copy, a shadow of this real, eternal country. The colors are deeper, every blade of grass means more.
Lewis is drawing heavily on Revelation 21 here, the new heavens and new earth.
Which completely shatters the boring cultural stereotype of heaven, right?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
We often think of heaven as sitting on clouds, playing harps as disembodied ghosts, but the biblical promise of the gospel is bodily resurrection.
The physical universe redeemed and remade.
Yes. Eternity is described as dynamic, not static. When the unicorn cries out, further up and further in, it represents an ever-expanding, endless journey into the depths of God's joy.
Every chapter is better than the one before.
Because God is infinite, we will spend eternity exploring Him and never be bored.
That vision is meant to steady the listener in their current battles. By seeing this world as the Shadowlands, you can hold the losses and limitations of this life lightly.
You know they are not the final word.
Exactly. Well, we've journeyed from spotting the counterfeits of our age, to resisting the dwarfish prison of cynicism, to resting in the untamable goodness of the true king, and fixing our eyes on the eternal country.
It really is a complete roadmap for the Christian life.
It is. And before we go, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought from Aslan's revelation to the children. He tells them, there was a real railway accident. The term is over. The holidays have begun.
I challenge you to view whatever struggles you are facing today not as the defining reality of your existence. The trauma is real, but it is merely the preface. It's just the cover and title page of a great story that goes on forever.
Written by a lion who makes every new cage better than the last. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We encourage you to keep your hearts soft and always press further up and further in.